to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
Welcome to Road Atlanta. Overstep the boundaries here and you might get a grill full of red Georgia clay. Or worse, you'll find the frighteningly close barriers. Best to try to keep it on the track this weekend as we get ready for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America GT3 Cup Series by Yokohama. I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is former racer Joey Atterbury and sports car racer Ashley Freiberg. Joey, these cars get moving, so I'm excited to see them unleashed down this place's backstretch.
Yeah, we've had that, call it Cayman qualifying session and then the USA West qualifying session already this morning. So some of these drivers have actually already done some laps here at Road Atlanta, but you're right, it is time for this entire GT3 Cup field to go out there and qualify. And remember, we do have the Group A and the Group B out here.
Indeed. So this is just the first half that we're going to see of the qualifying session. They've split them into two groups, and then it'll be up to them to try and catch them in the second group, see if they can compare on the times, unless it gets interrupted. In that case, oftentimes, if the sessions are not equal on the time that drivers are able to get out there, they'll sometimes just put them into their row within the group that they are qualifying in. But we'll cross our fingers that we stay nice and clean and green throughout this session. Ashley, you've been talking a lot about how it's great weather this weekend, but it's now the middle of the day, and it does look like the track is getting a little warmer.
Yeah, it was a really nice morning. It was pretty cool. air temperature with the sun nice and warm, but it has warmed up a fair amount. It's not too hot yet, 76 degrees. It's still really nice temperatures for qualifying, so I would imagine that these Yokohama tires are going to get up to temp right away. I saw both Alan Metney and Scott Blinn really hauling down this final corner here to start their first flyer lap, so I think we'll see some pretty fast laps right off the bat.
Both Metney and Blend having to really get a quick turnaround here because they are both racing in that West Series and have hopped over into the cars for North America. As for the track itself, it's 97 Fahrenheit from what I'm seeing on our information. So, again, not crazy warm, but warmer than what we saw earlier this morning as we watched the 213 of Todd Perriott join us. Usually it's his son Jack over in the West Series that's racing with us, but Todd has decided to join the fun.
Always great to have more cars out here, and yeah, the Perriotts are always racing with us in Sprint Challenge, so good to see them both out here for the weekend as we check in with that 213 car. A little bit of a wiggle down there at the apex of what is turn 10A here on this Road Atlanta circuit. Of course, you're heavy on the brakes into that area, and these cars still getting all of that tire temperature into them. Looks like Metney already laid down our fastest lap of 122.4. That's even faster than what he turned in the West qualifying.
Wow, so he's learned some stuff and is using it to his advantage here in this session, clearly. There he is on our screens now. Alan Metney just weaving his way through the S's up and towards turn 5 and bounding over those curbs as he tries to use as much of the track width as he can around these fast corners. Now, as for Scott Blend, he is in contention for the championship. He's up against Caden Kelly, but Caden's going to have to hope for something miraculous, I think, to come away with this one. Because I believe if Scott Blend has a win in this race, that will seal it before they even get to race 2. So that tells you just how far ahead Scott Blend is coming into this weekend. Kelly really needs good results to try and have a hope at things. We'll see him later on. Blend is the only one in this group between those two that is out racing, as it looks like Ashley will get our first times down from Alan here in a second.
Yeah, super fast outlap here. He's got another purple sector here on this second lap, so we'll see what he pulls this time around if he goes a little bit faster. Looks like he didn't beat his previous time. It was just a 0.2 of a second difference with a 22.6 on his second lap, so we'll see if he stays out, but you really only need 2 laps for today's race and for tomorrow's race, so we'll see if he tries to pull a better lap here or pull it back into pit lane and save the car for the race.
Wheel was very active through turn 3 there for a second, but looks like he's got it under control. In the meantime, as we do have a yellow flag somewhere.
Yeah, it shows turn number 7, which is the corner that leads us out onto the back straightaway. Typically, we can see kind of cars get a little bit antsy on the throttle and spin it around down there, but it is just a yellow flag. I still see everybody moving on track right now.
All right, we'll try to dig into that, see if we can get some more information in the meantime. That was Eric Lapp, or is Eric Lapp, that we can see on our screens carrying on around. That might slow a few drivers, though, if they have that yellow flag in that section, because they are being warned that there is a danger, whatever is causing it, at this time and place. And they only have 20 minutes in this session compared to most of our other series seeing 25. And now we have a red flag. So whatever it is has not been cleaned up.
Yeah, and so we can see the car right there at the exit of turn number 7. And that's exactly what I thought happened, is probably just a little bit too antsy on the throttle. Spun it around drivers, right, and you see it kind of impacted the rear of the car into the tire wall there. Usually not a high-speed incident in this area, so hopefully they'll just be able to kind of pull it on out of there and continue on. I'm not sure if this was the original car. It showed the 227 car originally spun at turn number 7, but this, I believe, is the 226 of Musial.
Yeah, that's Musial Sr., and the car is still getting power. It's flashing in the rears.
And there's just a correction on race control. It was the 226 the whole time, not the 227.
Okay, so, well, the car's moving. That's good. Maybe he can drive that one back, and again, we'll have a nice quick cleanup. Because, again, they do not have much time in this session. And they want to make sure everybody gets an equal amount to try and get those 2 laps in. at 13 minutes left. Well, he continues to try and drive it out.
I wouldn't be surprised if he simply drives it out. If you don't have a spotter down there at that area of the racetrack, it's very difficult to know what's coming around the corner at turn number 7. So sometimes it's better to just be safe and wait.
That's a good point, yeah. So maybe just trying to be smart. He knows that he's lost it there. Drivers are going to really be getting on the throttle in that section. So Dave just kind of waiting until everything was stopped, and now hopefully can just drive it back in to the pit lane for us. You can see the cars already all lined up at the exit of that pit lane. Quickest so far is Alan Metney still at a 22.4, 0.6 of a second over Scott Blend, which kind of backs up, Ashley, what we saw in the West Series, where he seemed to have good pace over Scott. And again, this surprises me because Scott typically is pretty close to him.
Yeah, actually, Scott is a little bit closer to him than he was this morning. I'd say about a half a second. So Scott is definitely finding time out there as well. That is still definitely a pretty quick lap there. Daselsky there in P2 in the Pro-Am class. I'm not sure if he got held up at the beginning of this qualifying session. I saw he had a couple slower sectors and then kind of pulled it together in that last second before the red flag came out. So hopefully everyone gets enough time to squeeze in another lap or two.
Yeah, that's a full second off of our pole time for our second in Pro-Am. But it is Blend and Cron, your top two for the Masters currently, only separated by about 0.3 of a second themselves. So Daselsky obviously has come in partway through the season. He's kind of an interesting story too, because he's quickly climbed up the order of the points battle. But because he only joined us at VIR, at least in the Cup cars, he actually raced as well in the Caymans a little bit earlier, and is still a ways off. He's actually tied with Josh Conley on the points coming into this one.
I see that the 226 is officially back onto pit road. The starter has the green flag in his hand and just patiently waiting now, waving the green flag. So with 10.5 minutes, call it, the drivers are getting back out there on the racetrack.
The one to watch out for Metney will be in the next session, will be Cole Kleck. He tends to be fighting for that Pro-Am win with him, although Cole has certainly got the best of him a lot of times this season. But Alan gives him a run for his money, without a doubt, as we once again get underway. What happens in these red flag sessions, Ashley? Does this cause, difficulty in keeping concentration, or is this pretty easy to overlook these interruptions?
Yeah, thankfully that red flag was pretty short, so it shouldn't have affected anyone too much. It does sometimes affect your rhythm a little bit. A lot of drivers take a lap or two before really pulling that fast lap together. So the good news is we have 10 minutes left, so plenty of time to pick that rhythm back up, clean your tires off, and go for that lap. So hopefully it's not going to affect anybody too much.
We'll try and get word from race control whether or not they will continue to completely or summarize everybody in order on qualifying time, or if they will use this as a means to just switch this to gridding them by rows instead. But we'll talk more about that in a bit if we do find that it is changed. Hopefully, we will keep things nice and simple for our sake as we watch cars now head past us on the main straight. We've got Scott Blend on board in the meantime, looking like he is maybe trying to warm the tires a little bit, scrubbing them as he comes down the backstretch.
I'm in agreement with Ashley, though. He's actually closer to Metney in this session than he was the prior session. I think that ultimately he's still looking for a lap time that's in the 122s. His fastest right now is a 123.0, backed up by a 123.7. So I have a feeling that Scott is going to go out there and want to kind of turn a better lap than his second time on the board right now.
And as much of a deal as I've been making out of it, he's not racing against Metney for points, and Scott's already wrapped up the championship. Well, I shouldn't say wrapped up the championship, but has practically wrapped up the championship here. So he's not in a bad space right now. If anything, it's more about getting a good enough time to compare to those in the second group for him, because he's on pole currently as we ride on board with Dave Musial 2.0. So seeing the younger Musial here come up into turn 3, you can just see how blind it is. And Ashley, as I was talking to Elliot Forbes Robinson before this race, that was the thing that he was telling me really most people don't realize is just how blind so much of this track is.
Yeah, but that's what makes it so much fun, right? So, I mean, really from turn 2 all the way past turn 3 and into 4, even into the S's as well, it's all blind. So if you can use a simulator before coming here, watch a lot of in-car video, whatever it takes to really learn the track so you're not having to do that when you first get here, that's super helpful. Same thing coming up under the bridge. When I coach here, I actually tell my students there's 3 different colored blocks on the bridge and should try to aim for one of the colored blocks. So you start to use different, a little bit of a slide there. Ooh, that was a good save. Almost lost it there coming out of turn 6, but nice job gathering it back up. I'm not sure who that is. That's Kron there. But yeah, I mean, on a track where there's a lot of blind corners, you have to use external reference points so that you know where your car is pointed lap after lap. And then as you start to learn the course, you can kind of start to drive it by memory, but that's something that always helps.
So here is the outboard view of Reinhold Kron. Clearly this likely not to be an improved lap. In fact, yeah, first sector was good, second sector was way off for him. So he's probably backed it up a little bit, is now going to give another go at things. He sits second in the Masters class and third overall.
It's just setting up for this next timed lap here, because obviously with that mistake and then you saw him lifting going down the back straightaway here, just going to focus on this timed lap that he's now on. Jump it over that turn 3 curb here, and Ashley talk about how blind it is, and especially coming up over that crest, you just kind of get a glimpse of that apex curb and jump the car right on over that thing. Hopefully you land at the right point on the racetrack, pointed the right way coming out of turn number 3. It is always an interesting corner up at the top of the hill.
I want to give a shout out to the 255 of Mike Mim as well. He's had to miss a few races in the middle of the season and has finally come back again and put himself third in the Pro-Am class, 5th overall. So this is a great rebound from the 255 as Dyshelski. We were just wondering, Ashley, if he would have something more underneath him, and that's a big yes. He gets within 0.2 of Metney now.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on him because I know he has the speed, and I was wondering if earlier on he was just stuck in some traffic. So he's only 0.2 behind Alan Metney here, and remember, he has to get those 2 laps in, so hopefully his second lap is just as quick as well.
That's a good point, yeah. If he just rests on his laurel now, then the second race is not going to be ideal for him. Metney's actually in pit lane, so he's pretty satisfied with that time. Again, he's not fighting for any sort of championship here. He's just out here for the thrill of getting those victories coming down from that Carrera Cup to race here in Sprint Challenge. Meanwhile, we talked about the tow earlier, Joey. We got at least one car, the 252. That is Dyshelski, pulling a nice tow.
Yeah, he's on the back straightaway right now. He actually set green, his personal fastest, in sector number 1. Sector number 2 looks right on top of what Metney's put down, but the problem is, I believe this is Caden Kelly directly in front of him here. It's actually going to get held up just a touch, and that's not what Dyshelski wants. So a great first half of the lap. It seems like the 255 was holding a good pace. So let's see what the 252 can actually put down, a 23.17. So that's very similar to his first timed lap as you see him try to get by now.
Yeah, he's through. That is actually Mike Mim that he just went by. So Mim probably on his own hot lap really couldn't slow up there to sacrifice. Unfortunately, I don't think either of them did improve at that stage. So that moves Blend down to 3rd overall, but still our pole sitter in the Masters, and Kron behind him down to the outside of that 2nd row as well. So we follow Dyshelski. This lap also probably compromised since he had to make that pass into turn 1.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at the Sector 1 time at 33.0. Compare that to Metney at a 32.0. So already 1 second that you're going to have to try to make up that pretty much is non-existent out there. So I would expect to see Dyshelski maybe kind of throttle it back here on the back straightaway, or maybe even just kind of enter 10A very, very gingerly, so that way the exit is exactly what he wants to capitalize on to start the next lap.
And I was just looking at the sectors between them to kind of see what Danny needs to do to try and take this pole away from him. Interestingly, Metney's got the purple first and third sectors, but Dyshelski has the quickest second sector, but it's only by about 0.03 of a second over Allen. So he needs to probably do something a little bit more special in those first two sectors to try to take this one away. And now he finally gets himself on a flyer.
Yeah, that last one was a 23.8, so significantly off of what Danny can do. That was a 22.6 or so that he's got on the board, so plenty of time. Look at how aggressive he was up and over turn number 3, really wagging the tail end of the car out. You got to make sure you get that good turn in, and that's exactly what Dyshelski's doing, using up all of the racetrack, all of the curbing, not afraid of that entry curbing or the exit curbing on turn number 5. He is officially attacking this racetrack.
I was going to say, maybe I'm just not used to how to drive this one fast. He looks loose to me.
Yeah.
Loose is fast, right?
Yeah.
That is true. That is true. And the thing is with this track, I mean, if you clip the curb at a slightly different angle than the lap before, it completely changes the way the car handles through the corner. So we saw him really climbing that curb there on the entry of 5. I'd be willing to bet that cost him a couple tenths.
He was about 4/10 off of Metney's purple first sector. So, yeah, and second sector also another 4/10 off once again. So, yeah, he's going to have to maybe cool down those tires a little bit with all the slipping and sliding that we've been seeing. He's got enough time for one more lap, but he's not going to take it. He is going to park the car and be happy with the front row.
That's pretty interesting, too, because I think his next fastest lap is pretty much like a 23.1 or so, which kind of puts him right in the middle of the field when it comes to that Pro-Am field. So it'll be interesting to see what Group B brings. Right now, it's definitely Metney for sure leading the way.
Going to be hard to catch this weekend if both the West Series and now the qualifying here in the North America Series seem to be showing. I think this is the 261 that we're watching coming on down the hill. That is Thomas Herb. Sits 9th in the Masters class right now. Worth noting, just a bit of housekeeping, that because Musial Sr. caused the red flag, his 2 fastest laps were deleted. But it looks like he has since, I think, gotten a couple more in.
Yeah, he's definitely on the board down there in what looks to be 8th in that Masters class for the GT3 Cup. So has at least returned to the racetrack to kind of go out there and put in that qualifying effort. I think it was about a 26.1 is what he did.
Here's Eric Lapp, who has put himself into 7th in the Pro-Am class. Current quickest lap at a 25.7 himself, but he's got a whole second to get up to Poole in front of him in class, so that's going to be a bit difficult. Looks like checkered flag is out, and there's a couple cars out there, but it doesn't look like anybody is on a hot lap right now. We do have one coming across the line. I think that was Joel Johnson. Yep, he is our first to take the checkered flag. He does not improve. He stays put 4th in the Masters class. I think that will do it. Treffert's still out there. Bowden is still out there, but I do not see any green sector times for them. So let's go through our starting order for this one, or at least not our starting order, but finishing times for the first group. Alan Metney quickest there with the 22.474. Dyshelski will put a second quickest time next to him there for the first group. Scott Glenn fastest of the Masters. Behind him, 4th overall is Cron, with Mim 5th. Then it's Todd Treffert, P6. Joel Johnson 7th. Todd Perriott, good enough for 8th. Dave Musial 2.0, good enough for 9th today. And Mark Bowden 10th. Then it'll be Hutter in 11th. Kyle Washington, P12, Poole in 13th, and Eric Lapp in P14, Dave Musial Sr., 15th, and Thomas Herb, 16th. That will be it for the first group, but we'll take a short break. We'll be back here at Road Atlanta for Group 2 here in GT3 Cup qualifying.
It's hard to contain your excitement when you get something you've really wanted. Like the gold standard in automotive protection, WeatherTech floor liners. With deep sculpted channels and laser measured for total protection in the front, back, and even up the sides.
Dad, you're going viral.
What? WeatherTech me.
So don't be shy, enjoy. Order your premium American-made products at WeatherTech.com.
And we've seen some interesting things happening. I'm Joe Peak with Ashley Freiberg and Joey Atterbury up in the booth. Joey, I'm looking at the results of that first group. One thing that stands out to me, Metney's fastest lap was lap 2 for him.
Yeah, and he also backed it up with another lap that was less than 0.2 of a second off of that first flyer. So he put down a 22.4 and a 22.6. I think that is the early carrot to go and chase. And if we're looking for a car to go up there and challenge that, I'm looking for the orange 211 of Cole Kleck out here in Group B.
Certainly. And for the Masters class, Scott Blend has the fastest lap at a 23.0. So we'll watch and see where Caden Kelly lines up, as well as maybe a few others. It could be surprised, but it's been kind of Caden and Scott that have been up towards the front most of the races. Although last time out at Watkins Glen, Kelly had to kind of climb through the field a little bit in one of them to work his way up to a battle. As we watch Laura Eli head down the back straightaway here, just warming up her tires, getting ready to set a flyer.
This is that outlap for everybody, so they're taking it nice and easy, just kind of scrubbing the tires left and right like what we're seeing out of Laura Eli here in this 209 car going down the back straightaway. And then typically what we'll see drivers do is kind of get ready going into turn 10A. You don't have to go blasting down here into the brake zone. It's more important to focus on the exit of turn 10B, because this right here, when you get on the gas, you're going to hold it all the way down to turn number 1.
Exactly, and we've just seen a bunch of those cars just fly past us here at the start-finish line. Laura joins them coming down towards turn 1. Very fast right-hander this way to start off the lap. Whoa, as the 211 of Kleck, not looking like the car is to his liking right now.
That was a big-time nervous moment going down the S's for Cole Kleck. You're right, and I believe he's got a car right on his bumper as well. I'm not sure which car that is, but definitely a little bit of a nervous moment. But we know that Cole always drives his car at, call it 12/10, right? I don't think I've ever seen him drive it easy. So if there's going to be a driver that's comfortable with the car moving around, it's probably Cole.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I was trying to make out who that was as well.
Tony Melito.
Oh, okay. And Melito's been pretty decent lately, so you might want to hold on to that car, although if he keeps sliding around, might not be the best thing to stay right on the bumper, just in case something goes awry. But pretty much everybody is now out on that first flying lap at this stage, and we're waiting for the first times to come across the board. Looks like it might be Cole Kleck, the first amongst them, but I'm not sure that he'll hold on to that fastest lap the way that one was going. Melito follows him. Therese Lalu next across the line as well.
Yeah, only a 127.1, so Cole lifted going down the back straightaway, call it on his first opening lap here, really kind of focused on that exit of 10B to start this new flyer. Let's see if he kind of keeps it more in shape going down the hill. This is the moment that he had that big loose sideways, and the car looks more hooked up this lap.
Okay, that's good. So maybe the tire pressure's not quite exactly where he was hoping there on that first lap, but looks like he's got it well under control. Yellow flag being waved somewhere. At turn 1 we're hearing. So I don't see anything out of our booth, but I do want to point out that first lap quickest was Laura Eli.
25.279 is the fastest of the first laps here in Group B qualifying. I do expect everybody to kind of pick up the pace here, including this 211 right now. And in fact, I actually see Cole Kleck in purple Sector 1 of 30.95. And if I draw back to Group A, I think the fastest we saw in Sector 1 was actually a 32.0. Let's see if Cole Kleck can eclipse that 22.4 from Metney.
I talked about how dangerous it is to go right up to the limit at this track, and Laura Eli found that out. She was the one that caused that yellow flag at turn 1 right after she set that fastest time. Cole Kleck responds and is down to a 22.6, half a second ahead of Caden Kelly, who's at a 23.1. Ooh, this is going to be tight for our pole in the Masters. Kelly is within a tenth.
And crucially, I look at Metney's second qualifying time of 22.64, so Cole Kleck narrowly edged that out, but that's still not what he wants. He wants to go even faster. He wants the overall pole position for both of those races.
Here's Matt Dusek in the Charlie Hayes Racing 251 machine. He might feel a little bit of a pull there from the car ahead as he starts to get on the throttle. Over 125 miles an hour there before he even gets to the bridge. Let's see how high he reaches as he goes for the brakes coming down into the 10A chicane, 155. And now he finally slows up that bright orange machine, Dusek, through the left and the right and up the hill.
You know, it could have been just my eyes seeing some stuff, but it almost looked like a little bit of gravel down there at the brake zone of turn number 10A. Maybe that's a little bit of leftover from whatever car brought it back out onto the racetrack. But a nice lap out there from Dusek moves him up into second in that Masters class at 23.8.
Kleck just crossed the line, but it's still at a 22.6. He did go purple in the second sector, but first and third, he wasn't able to improve. Therese Lalu moves up to fifth in this group with a 24.5. So that would have put her somewhere around, looks like 11th or so in the first group. That means that first group certainly was pretty stacked. Gafarov, great lap from him. We don't usually see him up in fifth.
No, I was just about to point that out. The 288 of Gafarov put in a great lap time, a 124.4, as we've got our eyes focused on this car going down the back straightaway here. This is the 299 of Conley here. It's actually set green sector number 2. Was a relatively okay sector number 1, so as long as he can kind of close out this lap, he's looking to move up on that board.
Currently fifth within the Pro-Ams. Comes into view here around the hill. Let's see if this last sector is enough. Boy, he took a lot of grass on the exit, and he does improve, so he was leaving nothing on the table. He goes to third in the Pro-Ams.
You know, beautiful lap there. I think that was a 24.2 to get him up in front of Gafarov, who we were just mentioning, put down a great lap time himself. And just looking at all the dust in the air here at Road Atlanta, we're sitting on the outside of what is turn number 12, right behind the start-finish stand. So typically, if we have dust and dirt, it's probably from turn 12 here.
Yeah, that was Conley that kicked up a lot of that. He'll have to try and clean those off a little bit, especially since those are the left side tires, and you need that grip down into turn 1. Interesting note about Kleck. He went purple in the third sector, but again, failed to improve in the first and second sector. So he seems like he's having trouble getting the entire lap hooked up. There's another slide there from Conley.
Yeah, and I think Conley might be on a little bit of a cooler lap here, at least in comparison to what he did the prior time. So we're going to hop on over to the 242 here of Therese Lalu. This is approaching turn number 6 at this racetrack. Get back onto the throttle, and then here's turn number 7. I commented this is probably one of the most important corners because you have to get on the gas as early as possible because it leads you out onto this very, very long back straightaway at Road Atlanta.
Gets maybe just a tiny bit of help from Laura as she goes by. Therese still sitting 5th in class right now. And the first sector was good. Second sector was a decent time, but not a personal best for her. Let's see what this third sector looks like as she comes around to finish the lap.
I was just noticing that Cole Kleck is just starting another lap as Therese Lalu is finishing this one. Let's see what Therese puts down. Actually does not improve the lap time that I see, but a 24.5 was that last time by.
That was very close to her personal best in this session. So she's finding good pace, just can't seem to get maybe any more out of it. The good news is if she's that consistent, that means both her qualifying times should put her in a good spot come the race.
When I look at what's going on right now, call it halfway through this Group E qualifying, I'm most interested in this 211 on this flyer right now. Obviously, we're always got our cameras on Cole Kleck because he's one of the fastest out there. However, he put down 3 lap times that were not faster than Metney, and then he finally cooled it off this previous lap. He's back on this flyer right now on the back straightaway here. Let's see if he can finally get up there and challenge that 122.4, which he's chasing.
Neither Kleck nor Kelly have been able to
He's already off of it, yeah.
Oh, yeah. They haven't been able to top Metney or Blend, unfortunately. So maybe just another little bit of a cool down here and going to get back on it for another try. 10 minutes left, so about half of the second group left to go. He actually is going to bring it into pit lane.
Yeah, and I think what I'm most curious about, actually, so that 22.63 is good enough to be on the front row, because remember, Danny Dashelski put down a 122.69, so I'm sure that Cole's always got his eyes on the top of the board, but sometimes you just have to also realize where you're sitting at going into first race.
Exactly. And having both Metny and Dashelski is going to make life interesting out there, without a doubt. Kleck actually holds the fastest of all three sectors here in this second session. So clearly the quickest driver out there right now, and could find himself on the overall pole, but he needs just a little bit more to try and make it stick. This is where we get that lull in the qualifying session. A lot of drivers down in pit lane, just checking those tire pressures, maybe cooling the tires, and we should see a few of them come back out.
I saw the 217 as well as the 216. That's Manship, who just brought it down into pit lane. And as I hear another car grab a gear and start to leave out of pit exit, looks like this is also going to be another car entering pit lane here. I believe this is the 251 of Dusek here, this kind of orange copper color car.
You can see where you talked about the dust off the racing line in some places here coming into pit lane. It is quite dusty there. The red Georgia clay definitely lets us very easily tell where it has been made dirty on the circuit. All right, so we got a couple cars back out. I think Laura Eli amongst those. She just flashed past us. Stays 10th overall, 4th in class.
This is Gafarov here in the 288 car that he is on in outlap. So he's out there going to try to improve that qualifying effort. He's got Conley sitting directly in front of him, only by about, call it a tenth and a half, actually less than a tenth and a half of a second. So very similar to what we saw in our morning qualifying sessions, where some of these drivers put down a lap, they bring it down into pit lane, have a conversation with the team and say, yeah, you know what, maybe I do have 2 tenths, maybe I've got 3 tenths, and we can go up and leapfrog a few more spots.
And remember, this is going to be important for Gafarov, because he kind of got innocently collected in that big incident in race 2 at Watkins Glen. So that was right at the beginning of the race. He really didn't get to show what he had underneath him. And based on the pace we've been seeing out of him here this weekend, I'd say this is a good response.
Well, he's going to start another flying lap right now as he crosses the start-finish line, so we'll make sure to keep an eye on that as Frank Vitiello is off throttle down the back straightaway here. He still does have motor underneath it. I think he's just kind of cruising on a nice, slow in-lap.
Yeah, I think you're right on that point. So we'll see whether or not he comes in, or if he is going to maybe give another push. You can see Dusek with his door open down on pit lane, but nobody's by the car, interestingly. Oh, there might be one person out there with him.
Looks like Cole Kleck actually went back out on track, as well as Therese Lalou, to see if they can try to improve their laps.
Car 268, unapproved work during qualifying, loss of all times. That's Dan Ammon, but he hasn't set a time yet, so wonder if that's just them doing what you were talking about, Joey, and just trying to do what they can to get that car prepped and ready.
That's what I would assume. A little bit of an odd one, though, on the message system, so we'll just kind of have to remember that going into the race later this afternoon. But like you said, Ammon has not put down a lap time, so it doesn't really affect anything, as Therese Lalou is on her out lap, like we heard Ashley saying. So she comes up out of turn 10B, and actually she's got the best carrot to go ahead and chase, because Cole Kleck is directly in front of her on his first flying lap as well.
We didn't see it, sorry, but out of our window, Cole was dragging his tire a long ways down the main straight through the grass. So he's probably going to have to back off on this one, I imagine. It just scared me for a brief moment.
You know, word on the street, that's actually cooler in the sim.
Whoa! And coming up over turn 3, Lalou loops the car, keeps it out of the barriers. She'll get it turned back around. So that lap definitely not going to be a quick one. And nice job keeping that from becoming a worse situation.
Yeah, and that's that tricky turn number 3 at the top of the hill. She jumped over that apex curb, and sometimes you have to cross your fingers when the car lands, and hopefully it takes a set, but evidently just a little bit loose still.
You were talking earlier, Ashley, about finding markers in those blind corners. It seems like you're practically looking at the sky coming up towards turn 3. So what markers are there?
Yeah, going up into turn 3 when you're actually way back all the way into turn 2 to set the car up going in there, I actually aim for a telephone pole out in the distance. So hopefully they never take that telephone pole down. But yeah, going into turn 3, you just have to pick your eyes up really early and start to turn in the moment you just start to see that apex curbing appearing over the hill. So this track really challenges your eyes as well because it's so fast, so flowy, and blind. The sooner you can look ahead, the better off you'll be. It looks like Cole just went past start finish. He did not improve on his best lap, but he might have gone faster on his second.
I think
that was definitely a cool down because after Therese had spun, he had realized his first sector was off. And so I think that's a sign of a smart racing driver. Actually, you know about reading the dash, and if you get to turn number 5 and you're down 0.2 or 0.3, you might as well just say, hey, this lap is not going to do it. Let's just kind of put all of our eggs in the next basket and focus on that one. Yeah,
for sure. The sooner you can catch that, the better off you are, the better off your car will be if you can manage that. And yeah, take that lap as either a cool down like we talked about or a warm-up lap. Maybe your tire pressures weren't up to pressure yet, so you can use that in multiple ways to maximize your car.
I have a feeling that Cole is probably I shouldn't say frustrated, but he went out there, laid down his lap times. I think that he expects to be on top of the board. He's not tried it a second time, couldn't get faster, and out here for the third attempt, and still the car just not cooperating for what he needs on the lap time. So I'm sure the driver right now may be a little bit frustrated with his performance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're competitive and you're trying to win races, you always want to be first in line, right? But in this particular case, also have to realize Alan Metney has a lot of experience here. He's really, really fast. He's racing in Carrera Cup. So for Cole to still be just a couple tenths off of him, and it's only qualifying, sometimes it's better to just take a little breather and focus forward, focus on the race.
Well, he's thrown up the white flag because Kleck is now in pit lane as we rode on board with him to wrap up his qualifying session. Not enough time to get back out there at this stage. In the meantime, Vitiello and Lalu are the only other two that are on track. So we'll have very few cars to try and change the order. Let's see what Frank does this time. Does not improve. He stays 11th out of this group. And Lalu not showing improvement on the first sector, so we'll see what the second sector holds.
And, you know, it's something to keep in mind, too. Caden Kelly, right now in that 208 car, currently holding the fastest Masters class lap here in Group B. However, Scott blended a 123.0, about a tenth and a half faster than his biggest rival out there in the paddock.
Yeah, so as it stands, it'll still be Scott Blend in race 1 who will have the Masters pole, which bodes well for him, having that track position at the start of the race. Kelly, again, not only needs to beat him, but needs a lot of points, whereas all Scott has to do is take one more victory, and there's nothing that Kelly can do in response. We've got just 1 minute left. Lalu has brought it down pit lane. That means now it is down to just the one car you see on your screen as Frank Vitiello might be pulling it in as well. We'll see whether or not he picks it up. He's got enough time to start one more lap if he wants it.
You're right, he does have enough time to start one. Sector number 1 significantly off pace, and also sector number 2 significantly off pace. So what this tells me, probably a cool down lap to bring it in, or like Ashley was saying, it might even be like a little bit of a warm up to get ready for this next one. Let's see the attitude of the car. If he accelerates up over, certainly looks like he's bringing it to pit lane.
Yep, there you go. He is under the yellow line, and that is going to be it for our second group of qualifying. So we'll get the official order of the grid a little bit later, but for this second group, that puts Cole Kleck on the fastest, but not the overall pole from what we've seen. Caden Kelly quickest of the Masters and second in this group. Tony Melito P3 Dusek will be P4, and Josh Conley in 5th. Then you've got Mustafa Gafarov in P6, a great showing from the 288 driver. Therese Lalu will have to settle for 7th. Gilliland will be in 8th, and Tillman Schmid in 9th. Laura Eli P10. Frank Vitiello, good enough for 11th. Sean McCaig, 12th. Manship was the last driver to set a time in 13th. DeJesus will not be taking part in the remainder of this weekend, and we did not see a time from Dan Ammon. That's it for our qualifying today. Now it's off to the races. We'll have a short break here at Road Atlanta, then we'll be back for the Porsche Sprint Challenge North America Cayman Series.